I mean, it is amazing, the
Is
weather.
fall nice for you guys?
I mean, fall lasts like a week, 2 weeks.
Texas is by far the dumbest weather I've ever seen, ever.
At least I mean, we say it all the time. We understand the stupidity of Texas weather. We're like, how bad can it be? I'm like, just stay here for a week.
Stay here for a week. You'll get 5 different weather patterns. Snowstorm, heat wave,
like 6
super. It's weird.
Isn't there only 4? You're like, not in Texas. Okay. We have Fummer, which is a hot fall. Summer and fall. Then we have fall. It lasts as long as the word is said.
Then you have Finter.
Finter, which is like a mild winter. And then we have winter for like 2 weeks. All right. Okay. Let's do this.
I am ready.
You ready?
I'm ready. I'm bubbed up and ready to go. Let's go.
Bubbed up and ready to go.
Bubbed up and ready to go. That's my word. I like say that all the time now. It's really funny.
I don't know if like they. We'll talk about that in our little.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna start changing their whole deal here.
What the hell did you do to our brand? I hate you guys. Okay. All right. Here we go.
Bring us in, dude. Bring us in.
3, 2, 1. To Get with the Programming, I'm Chase Ingram.
I'm Captain America.
And along with me is Bill Grundler. Oh, and we had some live CrossFit Games competition this weekend. We are going to spend today's show recapping that, as well as analyze the programming and anything else we'd like to talk about the weekend, our favorite things, our least favorite things, the highs and lows that we saw for the athletes. But man, I was excited.
It was
excited.
Well, oh, man, it felt good to be back watching, and wondering, and riding that train with the athletes, and all. But man, it was a weird situation.
It was a little weird.
I felt like I was balancing on my left foot the entire time. You know, like it was cool, but odd. And then you're waiting to see the videos, and then they put 2 videos up next to each other, and it was kind of a race, but not really a race. But by numbers, it was a race.
But the results were
coming in, and man, it like tweaked my brain the whole time. We're
going to get into all of that and more. This is going to be a fun episode. We're putting no time cap on today's episode. So who knows? It's just me and Bill, but we have a tendency to ramble. But before we get to that, man, it was a heck of a weekend for our supporters out there. We just told you guys, I believe, man, it might have just been on Thursday, that we Get With The Programming is now on Patreon. If you guys want to support the show financially, it supports the show, it supports us, it allows us to do more of what we love to do the most, which is this for you guys. We had a big support jump on our Patreon. Go to patreon.com for $6 a month. You can support the show more than you guys already do. It was a great weekend of support. $6 a month to support us and what we do, what we can do for you guys. And as soon as we get to 50 patrons, every week we will select a patron and give them a free month of programming from yours truly, between me and Bill. Heck, you can say, I don't want anything from Chase. I just want it from Bill, which is fine.
Why am I feeling that will be the elder people, the elder crew, the elder army of the Get With The Programming army?
Yeah, we got everything you guys need underneath the sun. So once we get to 50 patrons, again, go to patreon.com/Get With The Programming. Sign up for $6 a month. And when we get to 50, we'll start giving back to those that give so much to us. And our last but not least, I don't want to say we've created a new phrase, because I'm not sure if they've already had this coming in. But, Bill's like, hey, are you ready? It's like, I'm almost ready. He's like, cool. I'm getting my bub on. And I have to say, I forgot my coffee. I ran out of coffee this weekend, and I forgot to get more. So I couldn't bub
Oh.
Where I coached the 5
You were
o'clock.
bubbless?
I was bubbless.
How dare you be bubbless?
I'm bubbed up again, and what we're talking about is our partner of the show, Bub Naturals. They have a powdered MCT oil and collagen protein that goes so perfectly with your morning coffee routine or tea or whatever it is you like to drink hot. I suggest. I don't know.
I'm not an iced coffee guy.
Your cold brew serial killers want to mix some in, and it mixes wonderfully.
It does.
To each their own. But we want to thank Bub Naturals for partnering with us on the show. If you guys want to get on the Bub train with us with these, we have a code called GetWith20. It'll give you 20% off your purchase at bubsnaturals.com. And one more thing to that is, though we are giving 20% off, Bubs Naturals, give 10% of everything they make to charity. So you're not only giving yourself a delicious, tasty treat, but you are helping someone else in need. So Bubs Naturals, we want to thank them for partnering with us and making our morning coffee even that much more delicious, because we record in the morning, and Bill is cranky pants when he doesn't get his.
I'm not cranky pants. I just like my coffee, and it's like I always said my coffee was like a warm blanket. Everyone's like, "How do you drink warm coffee? It's so hot out." And like, it's like a warm blanket. Now with my Bubs, it's like the pillow underneath my head as I pull up my warm blanket, and it's so funny. Every time we say Bub now, I think Ice Cube, we be bubbin', and I'm gonna put that on the video here. We be bubbin', that whole deal. That's all I can think of. Or the current song, like the What's Poppin', What's Bubbin'. That's all I think of. Like those two. You probably don't know. You're a country guy. You don't know that stuff.
Not a country guy.
It's like I'm gonna TikTok the hell out of this. What's bubbin'? What's bubbin'? I got my 5-year-old daughter singing that now too.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty funny. Bub it up, you guys. Bub it up.
I hope they like the way.
Or I apologize, Bubs. I apologize. One of the two. Sorry, Sean.
I'm sorry, or you're welcome. We're not sure which one. All I know is that I'm finally bubbing, and I've never been more happy on a Monday. So, let's get into what just happened this weekend. We touched on this at the top of the show when we welcomed you guys. Is that we had live competition, maybe not in-person competition, but the CrossFit Games, the online qualifying CrossFit Games is the longer version we might need to call it, but happened. It went down 2 days, 7 events, and we had the new and update show, and Sean was at the desk with Annie Sakamoto, and Nikki Brazier was doing interviews, and I was like, oh man, this feels right, but it also feels kind of weird, because usually when I'm watching this, I'm also doing something else myself. I'm like, no, I'm just going to sit back on my couch and enjoy some elite fitness for the next 2 days and 7 events. So it was a little weird, you're talking about, a little odd, just because it was different. I think for me, once the Rogue Invitational happened, and then they announced that this is going to be, I knew it wasn't going to be that.
Right.
There was no fair way, and there was honestly no possible way logistically that they could have pulled that off in the time frame at which they announced the change of the format of the games to this online qualifying stage to what it is now. So for those that were clamoring, it's like, well, it sucks, and it's not like, it's like, it was never going to be. Like, where have you been?
Right.
Where's the live feed? I'm like, where have you been?
Yeah.
That's the thing I hate with the internet and social media in general, and just lazy people who are not even, you're clearly not a part of this sport if you didn't come into this weekend and not know there was going to be a live stream, or not know it's not going to be like the Rogue Invitational. It's like, where have you been? Did you just show up to bitch about it?
Well, yeah. Hello, and welcome to social media and everything else that goes like that. That's exactly what it is.
Landed my own plane there. Yes, we just showed up to bitch about it. Anyway, expectations. Sean Woodland says a lot, dictates the way you perceive what's going to happen. My expectations were pretty low, and that doesn't mean negative. But I knew we weren't going to get much. I was excited to watch the update shows because they were going to get some video, and they were going to show us what happened and recap, and that's when all the scores would get unveiled. I think they had 4 different blocks where 2 events, and then the last event.
Yeah.
And so I knew what we were going to get, and what we got, it was actually a little bit better than what I thought. again, I can't compare it to what it's been. It's completely unfair.
Yeah.
The amount of time at which they had to throw this all together, and they just threw this all together in a matter of weeks.
Right. And I've gotten into a lot of conversations with people about, what they think I thought about it. And, it wasn't this way, but it was kind of that way, and sort of like this and sort of like that. And I was like, look, you guys, it went from, we're going to do it. We're not going to do it. We're going to go to the ranch and do it. Now we can't do it. So we got to push it out. I mean, like, they were constantly switching with logistics. And even though now, we have other sporting events that are happening. We have, basketball or football stuff that's happening. We have other sports that are happening, and they're doing that without spectators, and that's cool. But for us to do it, like, it's not the same thing. It isn't like you go to a field and it's the exact same setup. It's like you have to now decide how you're going to do the events and what are the logistics of the events and how you're going to make it fair and how you're going to put the people together, and can you get people traveling? It's being that it's a worldwide thing like that. It's very different. So it was I was stoked to see it happen. I was stoked to see the show that was putting it out for everyone. But, it just, like, I agree with you. Watching, I didn't have high expectations of what it would be, but I knew that they had to do something. So there are going to be a lot of pros and cons to this weekend, and that goes across the board. Visually, what it looked like, how were the events, how did it play out? But what it gets down to, like, the goal is not necessarily to make it all happy-go-lucky for the people that are watching. It's, can we get the people to the CrossFit game? Can we get the people to the CrossFit games? That itself's kind of weird because we're in the CrossFit games, but can we get the right people up to the top so that we find the fittest, to crown the fittest at the end? And that's what we get down to. And they had to do something. My personal thing is, I don't like the fact that it only went to 5. I mean, I know logistically what they need to do, as far as, like, getting people at the ranch and all that, but it made what this was a very odd version of the Open. And I think that if you are going to have the fittest will rise to the top, no matter what the event is, no matter if it's heavy, light, short, long, but also it doesn't matter in arena. And that's what I think that we saw. We saw some people that were able to handle this and other people that weren't able to handle this. Some people, like, we talk about, you said that, are you one of the guys that shows up on game day, or you're the practice guy?
No, I'm a game day guy.
Okay, you're the game day guy. So you're one of those guys. Okay.
The practice guy, CrossFit, I'm the game day guy.
Okay, so that plays into effect because it's hard to make it game day when you're sitting there by yourself and it's the Open. Because in the Open, in the past, you could do the Open events 5 times to do what you need to do to perform. So are they able to rally up for the game day, or are they just that fucking good that it doesn't matter? And that was the old idea of CrossFit, was you're not, this is kind of, pre-current CrossFit, is you're not building to a particular day, you're just always good. So it doesn't really matter what the scenario is, you're always going to be able to handle it. We saw that with some athletes. And I think that the setup, I think it messed with a handful of as well. I mean, dude, our choices of people, like, thank God for Matt and Tia. Otherwise, we would have fucked up on everything. You know what I mean? Like, we would have not gotten anything right. It was, the way it played out was really interesting.
Yes.
It was fun to watch, and I'm glad at least there's something. But for the athletes that didn't make it into it, I think that this, not that it's an asterisk, but it's like okay, this whole thing could have not happened at all. So the fact that something is there, cool, and I'm good with it, whatever the results were.
I agree with all your points, and I like the idea is that if you are elite, or you consider yourself elite, it can't just be the movements on the board, the weights on the bars, the time frames at which you train at or compete in, but the mediums at which you're tested.
Yeah.
Online and person going at the same time around the world, which was completely unfair for some athletes that had to compete at 2 to 4 o'clock in the morning. That didn't happen this weekend, which is why it was so separated. This online format, 5 people at live at the game or a full field and cuts, and like, it shouldn't matter. If you are the best, it shouldn't matter. Now, does it skew the test? Maybe, but that's not what we're going to talk about. And
well, in fair is fair. I mean, like, I've had a lot of people say, well, is it fair? Well, it's fair because every single person that was competing had to deal with the exact same scenario.
No one was at it.
It's fair. Yeah.
I agree. Overall, man, it was really exciting for me. Again, because I was like, I was just like, let's just see.
Yeah.
Let's just see how this goes. It was kind of like when I went to go watch Guardians of the Galaxy. I know that's a really weird turn. It's a very
that is a really weird turn.
Very Tommy
comic book nerd over here.
On the previews, watching the previews, I'm like, I don't know who these characters are, and I'm a Marvel guy. And I was like, this looks a little goofy, and how do they even fit? And then when I went to the movie, I was like, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
This was wonderful. I love the movies. I love the characters. It was hilarious. These are a great addition to the MCU, and I had the same approach. I was like, listen, I'm not going to be negative coming in. I'm not going to be positive. I'm just going to allow it to come to me as it comes through the TV. And once that first show happened, and Dave was throwing out little Twitter things like, wait till you see the shit that's about to go down now, and all this. And then, like, when it came out, like, the biggest one, obviously, in the first show is like, Sarah. You look at here's the women's overall leaderboard. I'm like, where's Sarah?
Yeah.
And where's this person? And this person? And this person? Like, oh, they're in last. Or, where's Pat Vellner? And like, I was like, oh my God, what's happening?
Yeah.
And once that happened after the first show, I was in.
Yeah.
I was all in. And I didn't care that I didn't get to watch them live or compete against each other. I was like, here come the next batch of results. And if anything is crazy has happened in the first 2 events, what happened in the next 2 events?
And it was like fantasy football. It was like that kind of ride. So you're riding the numbers rather than riding what you're actually watching, which was cool. I got caught on the shows that they were doing, and they would put like a couple of the things together, a couple of the videos together.
Yeah.
And then, some of the events are so short, they could show the entire quote unquote race. And so all of a sudden I was like, oh man, we're live. Well, we're not really live.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess it's sort of just, and that's all, like, that was really weird for me. It was easier to stand back and watch the updates of it rather than trying to see all the different videos. And because then I wanted to see everybody. Well, what did this person do? Well, why did this person mess up so bad? Because that, when we're broadcasting, that's what I do. I'm always the why guy, why and how. Exactly. So now I don't know why Sarah's in last. I mean, I can tell why Brent would be towards the end because he's got those super long arms and super long legs. I get it on the Fran. Yeah. But I want to know, like, why these other people? Like, what happened? Why did it happen? How did it happen? But yeah, it was, if you let yourself get into it and just enjoy it for what it was, since we haven't had anything like that to be a part of, like, as long as you let yourself get into it, it was really fun. It was a fun weekend.
That's what I did. And that's what I'm saying is, like, I let go of everything.
Yeah. And you have to.
Because they're like, oh, they didn't show the videos. I was like, you know what I'm doing? As soon as the show's over, I'm looking up on the game's YouTube page for Sarah Sigmund's daughter's Friendly Fran and find out what the F just happened.
I know.
I'm like, oh, so we're about to get into the programming side, but I enjoyed it. We'll, as the events unfold, we'll have more personal recaps individually between each one as we go through. But overall, man, I really did enjoy, because my expectations were really low. I didn't have because I think if you came in and you're like, F this is stupid, this is not what the way, it's like, of course you hated it.
Right.
You were looking for things to hate. And there was some of that for me. It was like, I didn't like that. I don't like this. And then especially if you're like, if you came in with a negative mentality, you probably hated the programming. You hated the setup. You hated the fact that your favorite athlete didn't make the top 5, right? You were just negative. And I'm not saying you should have come in like overly naively positive, because there's a few things in here that weren't great and not fun to watch. But again, that was just the cards we were dealt, that everybody was dealt. Yeah. So when I came in with not a negative, but I was like, I'm not going to be impressed by anything that happens this weekend. I'm just gonna
just ride it.
Right? Let's just see what it is. And it was a fun ride. I had a great time. And we're talking about someone who's like, I've been at the games. I competed at the games. I've been at regionals. I competed at regionals. I've broadcasted. I've floor announced podiums, and like I've done everything. And I've been behind the scenes and watched events. I've tested it, like everything you could possibly do at the CrossFit Games. I have done, and I let it all go, and I loved every second of it this weekend. So
yeah, it was good. It was good. And saying that it was good doesn't mean that everything was perfect, because it wasn't going to be.
No, it wasn't perfect. Like,
it wasn't going to be. Because I will say this, as we're stepping into the events, there were events that I didn't like at all, that I think had no business being there, and the way that it was set up. But that's my choice. But I can say the same thing about the games or regionals or whatever else too. I can say that event, and that's what we do, is we talk about that. So as we get into that, like I think that will take that little side jog with the programming part, that we can analyze that and talk about that. But as far as you look at the whole package of what it was, I'm glad the package was there. Yes. Because the other choice is there's no package there.
Yeah.
So it's like you get a present. It's not really the toy that you wanted, but it was kind of like, it was a pair of socks, but it was still a cool pair of socks, and at least you got something, because it could have been you got nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So suck it up.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
All right.
Okay, cool.
Well, let's do what we do best, which is a lot of things. But let's do what we love to do. Let's analyze the programming for the 2020 online CrossFit Games. And we're going to look at the numbers. We're going to assess what the numbers come out to be, dictate those to you guys, our listeners. We'll infuse some of our own personal assessments of what we thought the event was and the overall test, and decide whether this was an appropriate test, which is going to be a hard thing to do because so much is riding on it, to find the top 5 to compete at the games. All right, so let's start with event number 1, Friendly Fran. And I will say this is the only time, and this is kind of when I backtracked my expectations and excitement. This was the only moment where I let my expectations get ahead of me. All right, so Friendly Fran, 3 rounds, 21 thrusters at 115 and 85, 21 chest to bar pull-ups. And I think for me, with all the build-up and it's coming, and then when the first event got released, I was just like, oh, that's it? Which is a classic mistake.
Yeah.
But it was, it's like, oh, I thought it was going to be something. I thought I was going to be wowed, and I wanted to be, and I expected to be, and it was an unfair judgment coming in. And after watching it go down and seeing the athletes compete and what the times were, I was like, dude.
Well, we've already said
twist on a classic.
Yeah, we've already said that, like, Fran doesn't work for this level of athlete anymore. This level of CrossFit athlete anymore. Fran is a great workout, but as far as an event goes, that element has been tested so many different times, and I think, again, we have said in the past, you got to bring the weight up, you got to change it somehow to make it valid. And all of a sudden now, when you look at these times, these are times that people were getting 10 years ago on Fran. So I think that is it a good test? Yeah. If we were to say that Fran is not a a good test of fitness, or an appropriate test of fitness, then I don't think we would be CrossFitters. You know what I mean? So to say and I agree with you. When I saw that too, I was like, womp, 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 womp. Come on, man. Like, that's what you're going to come up with, is that? But I mean, whatever. It's again, we're at home, we're at different places. You have an entire batch of workouts that our methodology sits upon. Mm-hmm. You can't say that it's an invalid choice to use.
Oh,
it's completely valid. I wasn't overly wowed by it.
Yeah.
The wow part. The wow part is the difference in some of the athletes that I saw. How is it possible that Matt Fraser and Noah Olsen go 1 and 2, and there's a 45-second difference?
7
between those two athletes. How the hell is that possible?
And it's like, oh, well, that's not that much. It's like, it is when the second difference is between 3 minutes and 4 minutes.
Yes, man. Like, holy cow. Like, that blew me away. And it wasn't about the event necessarily, but it was like, and and again, you can very easily say that range of motion is always going to play a factor, but here are two guys that are about the same size. We know that they're both good at gymnastic movement. We know they're both good at weightlifting movements. We know that they're both good at barbell cycling. 47-second difference. Holy shit. That blew my mind. I was like, okay. Fight for second is on. Here we go.
You touched on one thing that I wanted to try to split myself on when I'm looking at the programming. And I think it was really hard for us to do this weekend, is like, we're going to look at it purely from a test perspective. What is the goal? What was the goal for this weekend? And the only goal, because they were by themselves, was to find the top 5.
Yep.
That was it. Right? So if you got to look at it from the programming's perspective, yet it's really hard to do to take your human fan element out and look at it as an exciting, fun, watchable thing. Because those are completely different worlds. Now,
yeah, totally.
At the games and regionals, when it's live competition, you have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people watching. Dave makes sure that the test comes first, but he does think about the spectator portion of that when watching the test unfold. They didn't used to do that. In this weekend, the watchable thing was it was never a concern, because one, we couldn't watch it. It wasn't a live competition. So when you look at some of these, and I implore some people to try to put more of their analytical hat on or glasses on when they look at this, is like, you got to take your excitement, was this cool to watch, out, because that has no bearing on the test that it was. And that was I flip-flop back and forth between that a couple times. So if I just looked at this through an analytical view, it's like, no, Fran should never be used to test fitness at the elite level ever. It's too light, it's too quick. It becomes about body weight and height.
Kind of range of motion and transition.
You do not want that to dictate who wins. This, when you kept all the volume of reps that they had, the weight that they put on the bar, yes, they made 115 and 85 look light, but that is a moderately load for normal human beings. It's light, fairly light for them, and it wasn't light for most if you saw some people's videos.
Yeah.
And then adding this skill of chest to bar, right, a more difficult skill at higher volume, this came down to fitness. And there's no better example. What you just said is the difference between Matt Fraser and Noah Olsen, because I believe that Noah actually might have a faster Fran than Matt. Regular Fran. If not, they're at least exactly the same. But when Matt Fraser beats second place by 47 seconds.
47 seconds on an event that took 3 minutes, 3 something. Like,
yes.
Come on.
Now, if this is a 20-minute workout, I could see it. Whatever, 5 seconds a round is a 5-round workout? No.
Yeah.
15 seconds a round. And Matt,
like to lay that out like that is unfucking real. And I apologize with the F-bomb, but that's the only thing you can say on that. Literally Matt is so good at everything, but that is literally one of the most impressive things finishes, I guess. I don't want to say most impressive things, but like one of the most impressive finishes I've seen in a games event like that on a short, that was a sprint. Like this is all under 5 minutes, man. And he 20% ahead of the field in a 5-minute race.
Dude.
How?
If he kept that, which I don't think he really could have for another round. If he did 4 rounds based off this pace, he still would have gotten 14th.
Unreal.
14th, because 14th place is 417. If you just said another, even if you said he was averaging 102 point something, whatever, I don't know.
Yeah.
If you just said, okay, do a 107, he still would have got 415 and gotten 14th place by doing a whole nother round. And not to be outdone, okay, so Matt Fraser wins event 1. Tia wins event 1 as well.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit closer, actually a lot bit closer. She gets first at 340. Cara Saunders gets second and just 9 seconds behind her.
So that was close, but that split between them and the rest of the field is still gigantic.
428. You're talking about 40 seconds.
40
seconds difference between those two and the third place, which is Brooke Wells.
Yeah.
Ooh, man. That girl.
Dude, that was performance of a lifetime, her weekend.
Not even close.
Performance of a lifetime. Like every single event was 10th or under. She's the only athlete to do that. The only athlete out of the entire women's field to be all 10th or lower, 10th or better.
Amazing. Well, I mean, Brooke Wells.
Like strong work, man. That cut last year did something.
Yeah. Yes. And it could, and we'll touch on that in a little bit, but after this is all done. Okay, so that was event 1. Event 2 was a 1-rep max front squat. And again, when it hit me initially with my expectations of what I thought would be cool and sexy and how fun would this to watch, and I think when I said I'd guessed 1-rep max snatch, and part of my words were because it's fun to watch. I literally said those words, and when I saw front squat, I was like, "Who wants to watch that?" And I was like, "Oh, wait. Test. Okay, test. Okay, the testing a 1-rep max front squat, an individual test that they've never done at the CrossFit Games. They did it on the team side. I think it was 2012, 2013, but never tested as an individual." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's redundant. You know, they just did thrusters and they're all blown up." I was like, "Yeah. Why don't you test them when they're not perfect and see how strong you are?" So when I took my fan glasses off and my analytical hat on, I was like, great test. How many people are out there 1-rep max front squatting all the time? Or it's like, no, it's always heavy deadlifts and cleans and back squats, and look how much I can overhead squat for 16,000 times in a row. It's like, that's when you start to really understand, like, I don't think Dave follows anyone on Instagram. But he follows everyone. He knows. It's amazing how much he pays attention to what people are doing, and not only finds a way to test their weaknesses, but he makes it fit in the test appropriately. Like, it's different to be like, "Oh, nobody's doing this, let's do it this." Like, yeah, but that was a bad test.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm good with the front squat. I'll just say that.
I was kind of bummed just because it's kind of that. I don't say it's boring, but yeah, it's not super sexy. It's not super exciting. I think my choice was I wanted it to be cluster, squat, clean, thrusters. Let's show an overall strength. Let's just show, okay, front squats. All right, that's fine.
Put it over your head. And
yeah.
That was a cool test.
But, and I went back and forth on not necessarily the movement, but the fact that you had 20 minutes to do that. Because I was like, oh, man, 20 minutes. Jeez, oh, man. Like that allows for so much. There's so much recovery. There's so much this, there's so much that. And then I was like, there's so much recovery. Now what you do is you get true strength. Like, let's give you the time to get up there. So, and even though that wouldn't play to my strengths, I would rather do friendly friend, then try to find a 1-rep max front squat. Like I would have a better shot at something like that. Just me personally with my abilities. So, again, the test, we know the 10 physical traits. We know what we're trying to hit. Mm-hmm. That's how you hit it. So he allowed that to happen. He said, okay, we need a pure strength lift, a test. And he set that out. And I think that was, again, looking at what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, and what the events are that we have, that played right in there. I mean, could you have done deadlift? Yeah. Could you have done back squat? Sure. But here's something that we haven't hit on the individual side. Why not hit that?
Yeah. I liked it.
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
And it fit within the scheme that I would say the theme of the weekend, and it was 4 classic CrossFit Metcons intermixed with 3 single modality tests. And if you're going to do that, I did like the way he isolated the single modalities. It wasn't like 7-rep front squat, because if you want to just test pure strength, not strength and stamina, right, which that kind of gets away. I mean, it's still a single modality test, but like if you're going to do a dead sprint row, and a handstand holds, like then they need to be isolated in the confines of this is for the specialists out there.
Right.
Do your thing. And if you're not a specialist, you better be good enough to survive this test.
Yep.
I was okay with it. I was not okay. No. Only 2 events released. I was like, oh, this is the same thing. It's a front squat and a press overhead, and I got to test a heavy front squat. I'm like, oh, wait, I should probably wait till the other 5 events are released before I open up my mouth again.
When I saw it, I liked it. What I really liked is when I saw some of what the athletes were putting up. Dude, I wanted to see, like, Griffin is so damn strong. I wanted to see what he would do. And the fact that he hit 490.
490 pounds from Griffin Raleigh.
That dude is so damn strong. Unreal strong. I mean, I knew he was going to be good. I had no idea that was going to come out. That was disgusting. So awesome. But then
about 500. I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You almost did it.
But then even Tia, like, you don't necessarily look. Not that you can't look at her and think of it straight. I know she's good. I know she's a lifter. I know all these things about her. She's just good at everything. But it's amazing how strong she is. And it's amazing how she can be so strong on every squat where her knees actually rebound off of each other as she's standing up.
I swear I thought I'm just kind of like, if she had symbols on the inside of her knees on the way out.
I'm getting it. No, so good. Those videos were actually fun to watch. I mean, everyone likes watching big weights being lifted. Sure. And they were very dramatic lifts because they were heavy, so they weren't super fast. So there was a lot of drama in that 1 rep even. So, I mean, those were fun to see on the show and on it, on Instagram, what people were putting up on their feeds and stuff. That was actually a really fun event.
Man, and that was gnarly. And you're right. For Tia, you always think about weightlifting because she made Olympics in weightlifting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but go back and look at her deadlift at the
the total.
The total. Like, okay.
Beast.
I can't do that.
Beast.
Oh, so that was it. Okay, so that was the first 2 events. Again, we had 4 events on day 1, 3 events on day 2. Second event was Damn Diane.
Yeah.
And it is 3 rounds for time, 15 deadlifts at 315 and 205. And strict deficit handstand push-ups, 3.5 inches for the men, 2 inches for the women. And as much as I was shocked during Friendly Fran's time for Matt Fraser, when I saw them post Tia Toomey's Damn Diane video,
unreal,
like 220, I was like, oh, okay, so we get to watch the first round of her workout. And then I was like, oh, you mean the whole workout in 2 minutes and 28 seconds. 45 deadlifts at 205. 45 strict handstand push-ups at a 2-inch deficit, and she did it in 2 minutes and 28 seconds. If you just gave me 45 deadlifts at 3:15. Shit, give it to me at 2:05. I still couldn't do that in 2 minutes, let alone the handstand push-ups.
Oh man, I thought that was awesome. Watching the video of her. Well, there was a couple really cool things that I saw on that. One was she came down on the first set and of the handstand push-ups, and it was a short rest. I mean, it was almost like, well, why'd you come down? That was so short. And it was like I was talking to a couple of my members about that, and they asked about that, like, how she would come down and bounce right back up, and we're like, yeah, because she knows her body so well. She needs just that little break. Just that little break, reset herself and get back up and go. And you do that early so that you can make the stuff happen later. You break up early. Even on this, it's a 3-minute race, and even though she had that, she broke it up early and just like the transition, like I'm watching going, wow, right off the wall, boom, right on the bar. And there she goes. She's doing reps on, like, the blood didn't even get back down to her feet yet, man. Like, what the heck? How is she even able to do that? That was awesome. That video, that was an insane video. She was so fast. And you would have thought the way she did it, she had done it 3 times before that. Right. Like, the way it was set up, it looked like it was set up, planned. Like, all right, here's my strategy. I'm going to do it now. Yeah, that was crazy.
And when you think about, man, that's a really good point. When you think about an event that has strict handstand push-ups, where if you do this wrong, now that we see what the times were, 2:30 to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
The men's side, 2:45 to 3:15. If you do if you do one more handstand push-up than you were supposed to in a row, and you hit or touch that failure, you're done. You're done, because it's not a 15-minute event. It's a 2.5-minute event. And to be able to know yourself, exactly to your point, in that setting, that you can just fully send an event with something as fickle as a strict handstand push-up, let alone a deficit strict handstand push-up, and not screw it up, was incredible.
Yeah, that wiggle room you have,
because they didn't
of how much am I pushing too much? Yes. on a strict handstand push-up is so thin, thin. I mean, it's not even a 1 rep thin. It's less than that. Like, if you don't come down before you're like, okay, my shoulders are a little bit, you're done. Like, you now have to stand and watch. And I think she even got a no rep on one of them.
She did.
Yeah. So the like, you could tell, like, she rode that line
and she
perfect. Like, rode that line right on the line. Like, she couldn't have ridden it any closer.
Across the finish line as the wheels were coming off. Like, that was
that was perfect. It was the perfect race. She couldn't. Well, I would say perfect because she got a couple of no reps, but like, you couldn't have had it any more perfect than that.
Look at these times.
Unreal.
He wins 2:28. Matt wins again 2:44. On the men's side, is a bit different. Like, Matt got 2:44. 2:56 was next. That was Noah.
Yeah.
3:29. 3:39. I mean, by 7th place, you're at the 4-minute mark.
Mm-hmm.
On the women's side, there was no room for screwing up. Tia, 2:28. 2nd place, Caroline Reason-Thibault, 2:31. Brooke Wells, 2:34. 2:40. 2:50. 3:11. 17. 22. 25. 29. You don't get to 4 minutes until 16th on the women's side.
Yeah.
And when you're fighting for 5, and there's that little discrepancy between your top 10 women, unreal. The pressure. And the pressure of not having, well, maybe not the pressure, but having no idea what a good time is and what other people are doing. Because at least at, say, regionals, or even at the games when you're in Heat 4, which is all these top 10 ladies would be in, or men,
right? You
can at least go, oh, that is what this workout is.
Or you see somebody making a move and you're like, okay, you can mentally say, I better get myself going.
they can do that. I know I'm better than them at that thing. So maybe I can do one less, like, so, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What a fast, nasty event.
Yeah.
Until you get to the last event. So let's move into event number 4. Back to the single modality is we are hitting the monostructural component of the weekend. And man, 1,000-meter row.
I was surprised that this was the event that got the most talk.
See, I'm not at all.
I am because I personally, I didn't like it. Don't think it belonged there.
Okay.
Why? Because of, if you look at the times that we've had, so here's 4 events. All of those events, you could say, is around, what, under 5 minutes?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. It's not, we don't need to have another one of those. I mean, I get the rowing, and here's the other thing. If you look at the times on there, everything is so close that, like, if you didn't, you know how you kind of triple pump the cable to get it going ahead of time to kind of get the fan moving, you know, where you have that one. If you didn't do that,
right,
and you were 5 seconds slower than someone else, you went from like 4th place to like 20th place. And so in this one event, like, this all of a sudden became the crux of a lot of athletes, whether they were going to be up in the top 10 or in the bottom 10 overall. Because, I mean, you look at what those scores, I mean, between first, let's say, if you look at 25th place, you know, I mean, like, it's like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And I just think that to make a single modality that solely important, where you can drop 20 places like that, I didn't think that was good. I would have. This is where I said it. And when you changed it, and you were pissed, I know, because you would have had one of the events that would have been right.
Yeah.
When you changed it to 5K, that would have been a better call, I think. And I'm talking at the overall spectrum. Even though we had a longer one with the Nasty Nancy, I still think that we needed a long single modality like this, and I think that's where that should have played. My opinion.
That's okay. It's your opinion.
I mean, it was ugly. It was ugly, and, like, there's no way. Like, the fact that what these guys could do, these guys and girls did, like, that's a gross event. It's gross. I mean, you look at the day and trying to put that on top of the end of the day as your send off to nighttime after your day one, and you know you have another day left. That's really, really painful. And okay, I get it. Like, that's the CrossFit pukey and the let's make it ugly and all that stuff, and it caps that for sure. So it definitely fits the bill there. I just think that overall, a 5K would have been a better event for the test overall. That would have been my choice.
Okay. I think since Nasty Nancy hit that actually longer than a 5K time frame, I don't have a problem it not being a 5K. I would say, I mean, you're talking about like the second being different. That's no different than a max front squat. Being that, I mean, look at, okay, men's 4th place, because we will take out the top 3 because they're freaks. 25, 24, 22, 18, 16, 16, 13, 12, 12, 6, 1. Like, there's no difference. You don't judge a front squat by that. So I don't think it's really a 1,000-meter row by seconds. It's no different.
Yeah, but it's too, for what it is, it's just too short. I mean, you're right. You can line it the same way with the pounds on the front squat, totally. But then again, we're making that one thing more important. What are we testing on that? Like, the front squat was, let's test strength. What are we testing here?
What do you mean what we're testing here?
What are we testing?
Let's say anaerobic work capacity.
Okay, didn't we already do that?
I mean, yeah. Okay, so
that's what I'm talking. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's a bad event.
Yeah, I'll say we've done time frame test 3 times.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm 100% with you.
Yeah.
That is the only problem I have with the first day. is there's too much of the same thing in terms of a time domain.
And that's what I meant. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad event.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I think that if you look at the test, I'm even talking the first day, yes, for sure. The entire 2 days. We have one event that's over, whatever, 15 minutes.
You should only have one, though.
I think you should still have a moderate in there somewhere.
I agree with that.
I think that this was too short.
I think you could have. We'll get there towards the end. I'm with you on the time domain and there being an issue. I don't have an issue with the 1,000-meter row as the test because, yes, the other tests were short in the same time frame, if not almost the exact same, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes.
That's the problem.
The 1,000-meter row is a completely different event than those other two tests. It's completely different. Like, the time frame is the same. But deadlifts and handstand push-ups do not compare to a 1,000-meter row dead sprint. Thrusters.
No, I get that.
But the time frame, you're right. I agree with you there. Let's talk about Roman Karenikov and the fact that he is not actually a human being. And he wrote a 2:48.9.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, that sounds really fast. I'm like, take your best 500 lifetime. And it was a 124.4 average 500-meter row. The best 1,000 I've ever done is a 256. And I'm not saying that to say I got 9th.
But you are. But look how cool I am.
This was also the first 1,000-meter row I ever did. And I heard Tommy Marquez talking about this. I think it was on Talk Elite Fitness. And your best 1,000 is usually always the first one.
Because you have no idea what you're stepping into.
And I went out. And at the time, my best 500 was a 125. This was early on CrossFit days. And I went out in a 124. I came back in a 132. Karenikov went out in a 122 and came back in a 25.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Dude. And then when he finished, he just like put the row handle in. Like all these other people, which I just cringed as an affiliate owner. They're like, 1,000. Wow. Roman was like, he's like rowing, finishes, puts the handle in, and is like, it was like the most Russian finish I've ever seen. He's like, I've completed all of my row. Just done. He's like, is that good?
Oh man.
Amazing. Amazing. I did not think I would see a time like that. And people really need to like talk about this a lot more than they've talked about. They need to put this in the same stratosphere as this batshit crazy 490 squat by Griffin Roll. That 248. Like I had people message me like, what is that? I was like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it to you. Because it'd be different if he's just a rower.
Yeah.
Oh, unbelievable. And on the women's side, the winning time, Karin Frey, 3:15. Ridiculous.
So fast.
Ridiculous. God. Barnhart, 3:17. Spiegel, 3:18. Davis Otter, 3:20. That one. Davis Otter's 3:20. Very good. Because I don't see her. Because look, you see Freyova, beast. Barnhart, beast. Spiegel, beast. Even Brooke Wells underneath, like she is beastly strong. Katrin is not that. And the fact that she pulled that row, it was incredible.
Yeah. What I will say on this event was there were, I guess, people that kind of came out of the woodwork. Mm-hmm. You had people. I mean, we knew, like we called Corinne early as far as like being someone to watch. We know that Roman. We've been waiting to see him do something. And usually on those, like this is what this event I think shows is what's your pain threshold, because it just hurts really, really bad. And I think that like for Katrin, I think that's what I saw with this. It's not that she's a spectacular rower or anything like that, but one of the things that she does with Ben is there's a lot of let's just bathe you in that acid and hang out there for a bit so that you're okay with that.
Yeah.
So where she may not be as powerful as some of those other women that are up there above her, she can get in there and just sit in the suck for a while.
Yeah.
And I think that was really impressive. But even on the guy side, same thing. I mean, like there were athletes that all like Con Porter.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, like Con, like what? All of a sudden, out of nowhere, he pops up there. You know, I mean, Travis Mayer. This is something that like,
right.
This has been Travis's. That's his thing. Is he gets into those ugly, painful events and can hang out. I think that's, you know, it was cool to see. That was the one part of this event that I did like is there's that element. Can you hang out at that all out, painful, this hurts, I really want to slow down just a little bit, but you don't. And who could do that? I think that's what it was impressive to watch.
I'll add that to what it tested.
Okay.
Right? That question that you had. I was like, yeah, presses and pull-ups are cool. That's CrossFit, deadlifts, handstand push-ups, and you're strong. But like, fitness level is one thing. That nasty, like you need, and I think that's why I talked about it so much. That why everyone's like, if everyone's done 1,000-meter row appropriately, they knew what this was because it wasn't this. I'm not saying this is what it wasn't. It wasn't a test of fitness. It is, but you know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't only
in the grand scheme. This single event is not a test of fitness.
It was like it was like almost like I want to see how tough you are.
Yeah.
Physically, yes. Mentally, yes. And that competitive fire, and that is classic Katrin as of late because she's had a lot of stumbles at the games recently. She'll just have a bad stretch.
Yeah.
And then when it seems like she has got like 1 foot off the cliff and hanging on by a toe, she just comes out like a freaking monster. You know, I tell it all the time. It's like this is vicious lioness that's been backed into a corner. They have no other choice but to fight back to like with all their fury.
Yeah.
That's what you saw from Katrin this time because yes, that is the athlete that she is. She's super gritty. You know, she's the sled dog. She's called that for a reason. But, like, she knew where she was. She got a 12th and a 27th, and that's all she knew going into Diane.
Yeah.
Which she knew. She had to have known wasn't going to be one that she'd make up on. Because she's just not a heavy deadlifter. She's got good handstand push-ups, but there was a lot of other athletes that are better than that than she is.
Yeah.
When you get to the row at this level, it's like, well, you're not just going to beat me because you're bigger than me. Because you're going to have to want it more than me, or at least just as much. You can't just be like a front squat.
Right.
Like you're just going to be, I mean, you have to train it. You have to be strong. You got to be tough. But like the gut check of 1,000 goes beyond the compounds of just fitness.
No, I agree. And that's like, again, I'm not saying that the row is bad. That I like that fight element 100%. I mean, like, you know what you're going to get on the front squat. You knew what you were going to get. I mean, maybe there's a little like yelling as you're trying to add 2 pounds or whatever, but this one event is this is a mental event. And how bad can you take how much pain can you take? How bad do you want it? And can you just go until it's done? All out, go until it's done.
Totally with
because the voices in your head to want to slow down just a little bit, or I just want to slow down, or they're probably not going that fast, or they're, you know, I'm probably going to do okay. And then in Katrin's case, she didn't have the option. She didn't have the option. And as we got to that, as we were building into those next two, I'm like, I mean, even when we saw the events and we were calling them out, and we're like, oh man, we didn't even say her name. You know, we didn't pick her because I'm sorry. Like I don't know if it's there.
I didn't think she'd make it. That's literally the only time we said her name at the end of that last show. I was like, I just think these events stack up for her. But
I still wouldn't have even said, even with as well as she did, I don't think she would have done.
I thought she'd do well
on paper.
Yeah.
she shouldn't have done that well compared to the field.
It was awesome.
That was cool.
All right. So that was 1,000-meter row.
Okay.
Okay, we move into day 2. 3 more events to go. Nasty Nancy. Now, I know we wanted the long test. To me, this covers that. And this covers that tougher than what say a 5K would be. Because everyone's like, oh, you want to need that 20 plus 5K test. I'm like, if you're rowing 20 plus 5K at the CrossFit Games, what the F were you doing? That's that's so laughably easy to do. But this long test, which is 17:50, is the fastest time out of all of them. And if anybody rows something south of 18, is okay, now you had a serious. If you compare that to a 5K row, then that's a good row. But to do that with 2,500, let's say the event first. Sorry, 5 rounds, 500-meter run, 15 overhead squats at 185 and 125, and then 15 bar-facing burpees. This was a hard-earned long event. 75 overhead squats at near almost the average body weight of the typical athlete, except from the women's side. And I was listening to Talking Elite Fitness. They had Pat Sherwood on their latest event, and he made a great point. Is that when we were coming up in the beginnings of the CrossFit, and we'll say the late 2000s, that 2007 to 2012, it was a badge of honor and a test for all CrossFitters to do 15 overhead squats at body weight.
Yep.
And for me, that was a huge. I spent probably 7 years trying to get that. I came in CrossFit at 185. I was like, sweet. And then I started working out, and I ended up at 205. I was like, well, that really hurt my.
That ruined my chances at the body weight overhead squat.
Body weight a lot for benchmarks. They said you want a body weight strict press, a double body weight back squat, and a 2.5 times body weight deadlift baseline. And then they had this test of 15 overhead squats at your body weight. Well, the fact that they put this in an event where your average CrossFitter, they're probably a little bit beefier now, is right around that 185, 195. And to do that 75 times with over 1.5 miles of running in the bar-facing burpees, this was a hard-earned long test.
My favorite event of the entire weekend. I loved it.
We're doing it on Friday, and I'm so nervous.
I loved it. And we talked when we were trying to come up with our version of it. How are they going to do the run? I mean, I would have thought they would have had some 9s in there somehow, because you had your 21s, your 15s. Yeah, I thought there would have been some 9s in there.
It'd be 9 rounds of 9.
Yeah. But I liked what it was. I love the fact that the weight went to 185. And I listened to the interview with Dave and Nikki on the show, and they talked about that. He said, I wanted to bring it back to where you kind of circle it around to the old version of what it was, just like what you said, the badge of honor, the body weight 15 times and doing that over the rounds. I loved the event. I love that it was. I love the fact that it had the burpees in there, because it wasn't all about the run. Because even if you took the burpees out, it's still a lot about the run, even with that weight, because I think that all these athletes, I mean, even me, I'm pretty good at overhead squats. I could do those sets unbroken. So what this whole thing would come down to would be the run.
Yeah.
And that's where they would all kick my ass. I'm not the running guy, but at least the burpees get tossed in there as another element. Plus you have more pushing, which is going to take away some of the shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
So I like that they made it that way. I think that was good. And I mean, to really go at this event, even though you're talking around, 19, 20 minutes, you have to push the pace. And so you're going to be breathing heavy while trying to support that weight. And I love the setup. I love the event. I'm all about it. I think it's awesome.
100% with you. I am actually shocked how fast people went. I did not think people would go this fast.
Really?
1750? Are you kidding me? Matt Fraser? What the F, bro?
Okay, well, just take him out. You can't really even like put him in there. Like,
Medeiros right behind him. He was only Medeiros is only 30 seconds behind him for 5 rounds. So you're telling me he was only 6 seconds slower than per round? That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, it's a 500-meter run. So if you're like, even if a casual pace, like, okay, for 5 rounds, especially the overhead squats, I'm running somewhere around 2 minutes. That's not a slow pace for a 500-meter run.
Not even.
And then, okay, yes, maybe I can do a set of those unbroken at 185, but 15 reps, it's not like you're just doing thrusters over there. They're not going to take a second a rep. They're going to take 2, maybe 3 until you watch their videos. You're like, oh, maybe it is a second and a half. But then the bar-facing burpees are still going to take 2 to 3 seconds. But like, there's not a lot of room for air.
No, I know. You got to move.
And to break 18, I mean, wow.
Yeah.
And again, to the point of it being a hard-earned rep, 75 at or near bodyweight overhead squats, 75 bar-facing burpees, plus 2,500 meters of running.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the second day after you effed your legs with Fran front squats, blew out your back with Diane and handstand push-ups, and then killed any last living cell in your body with a sell-out 1,000-meter row the day before. And then you went out and did that? Unbelievable. There was a lot of incredible performances across the board.
Totally.
But as a whole collection of athletes, the way they all handled this one blew my mind. Like, I've always known there's been a huge separation between the games athletes and normal athletes.
Yeah.
And even normal athletes and just like people getting fit in the gym. Yet we're all swimming in the same pool. That was the first time I saw them like take out those pool buoys and just cut off the deep end. Like, yeah, I'm sorry.
You don't belong in this section.
This water's a little too deep for them sharks over here.
Yeah.
Here's your floaties. It was top to bottom the most impressive thing. I think people should all try. Like, if you want to get a good perspective of where these athletes are, try this event. Don't scale it safely. Let me say that safely. Or tell you what, scale it. Do it with 95 and 65 in a 400-meter run, but keep the burpees in there, and you're going to get a rude awakening of where you stack up against these athletes.
This event to me was the opening event of the 2019 CrossFit Games. Like, this, I think, is a quintessential CrossFit event. It highlights so much. I mean, I wouldn't want to pick all that running, but the running, the time frame, the events, the flexibility needed, the strength needed, the explosiveness needed, the stamina needed, like, it lays it all out, and I loved it. Like, this was the event that when I saw what it was, I'm like, CrossFit Games. Yeah. Now we're at the CrossFit Games. The other stuff to me wasn't CrossFit. I don't want to say it's not CrossFit Games worthy. It is when you look at the grand scheme. But like, this one event was like, bing, CrossFit Games. We're here now.
Test. And then I was like,
Games. Yeah, now we're here. That's what I thought about this one. I thought that the way that Dave put it together was awesome. I loved that it was a, obviously we have the Annie and we have the Fran in there, but I love how it's a classic style event. I love how it was modified to fit the games, appropriately and correctly. We needed a long one in there. You're right. It's got the time. It's hard earned. So you're hitting all those elements, which is great. By far the best event of the entire weekend. 100%.
Matt Fraser wins 1750, and then Katrin Davidsdottir comes out.
Crushing.
Classic Cat.
Dude, so good.
16. Now, we know she loves overhead squat. She's very well conditioned. But I thought she would do well in this event, but I didn't think she was going to be that dominant in this event. That was crazy. It wasn't
just like what you said, man. She does best when she's backed against the wall.
Yep.
It's it's that's obviously an impressive talent, an impressive characteristic that when you are backed up against the wall, you can come out and you aren't just swinging, you're swinging for the fences and you hit.
Yeah,
like that's pretty impressive. What's crazy is that she almost has to put herself there to do that.
Like, yeah, but she needs to stop actually doing it on the leaderboard. We need to be a bit more like
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's like
a page out of the Michael Jordan playbook and just like take offense to something.
Make
before the game starts.
Exactly. Like, do that before you're in the middle of the competition, to where you're barely making it. Because it's like you're so damn good. How could you not be there?
Yeah, and that's what it is. And the things that she works on with Ben Bergeron is he is so uber focused on controlling what you can control.
Totally.
Stay in your lane and, manifest your own destiny. I agree with that to a certain extent until you're competing against other people around you, because they can help. And what I see here is I see Katrin's first 2 events staying in her own lane. Now, she wasn't going to crush the front squat.
Right.
That's the other thing we had to throw out there is like a 1 rep max front squat was the second event. She still took 12th in Friendly Fran, right? So she still had a decent finish, but she wasn't going to do well in the front squat. So that's where her early hole came in. If you put these other events earlier, then she'd be like, oh, of course she's in the top 5. In fact, she might be winning the whole thing. But
right.
When she gets knocked back a peg and she almost like becomes hyper aware of what needs to happen, and then she's like, F all of you. I'm coming. Yeah. And we saw the same thing happen last year where Kat is about to get cut, or she just makes the top 10. I can't remember how that happened. And then she comes out with that double event at the CrossFit Games on the final day of competition, just goes and wins both of them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, she's 10th, and now she's 3rd. So that was Nasty Nancy. And then we move into the handstand hold. And I feel like a lot of people, and I know you don't like this one.
Nope.
And I don't know if you changed your mind.
Nah.
We're all over the map with this because they just they weren't expecting a test like this. Because, I mean, what we're saying is like, oh, let's see a max unbroken set of something of pulling, or, I had said bar muscle ups, or, maybe it was just an event test for time. Like, what was the gymnastics test going to be? Was it going to be to walk on your hands as far as you can without falling over? It's like, well, we've already done that before. You see a lot of videos of people just doing these batshit crazy obstacle courses with handstand walks all the time. And it's like the cute thing to do. And I feel like Dave sees that and he goes, yeah, that's great. But like, let's go back to the purity of a handstand and just hold it. Right. So it seemed really simple, maybe overly simple, this little box. And the more I look at it, and you can voice your displeasures as needed, I loved it. I loved it as a wrench, a wrinkle, a test of strength, gymnastic wise, and a test of kind of like the 1,000-meter row, something outside the realms of classic fitness, stress. Because when you have a finish line, it's really easy to push yourself to get closer to the finish line. When you see the light at the end of the tunnel, it's a little bit easier to like hold on to that pace for 100 more meters. When it's like, hey, kick up into a handstand. Here's your little box. You're not going to know what a good time is. You're not going to know what anybody else's time is. You're just going to sit there for how long? For as long as you can. Well, what's good? I don't know. So I thought outside the realm of fitness, that level of stress, uncertainty, and that mental fortitude to just stay in that moment, like every extra second you can get, you're like, maybe this is good enough. Like, no, it's not. Was cool, and I thought it was a good, unique, different, singular gymnastics test. And now I'll let you discredit everything I did.
I'm not taking away, or don't want to take away from the validity of the skill. I think that the way Dave got to that point. We've done handstand walks, we've done obstacles, we've done distance, we've done time, we've done all that kind of stuff. Yes, this is different because now you need to support yourself rather than having a controlled fall. So that this does take, I think, more skill, and it's definitely a skill to do that. However, when I just said that, it's a skill. I think that now, as far as it being a test of fitness that is going to cut a field of 30 down to a field of 5, I think that it doesn't belong or shouldn't hold the same worth as the other 6 events. I think that is different. And I mean, yes, you could say, the same thing with the front squat and the same thing with the row. Or what if you made it, an unbroken set of bar muscle ups? How would that be different? And I just think that this is it's too unique to be something that's going to cut down the field that much, I think. I don't think that it's not that it wasn't incredible to watch. It was fun to see that the fact that people could do this, but the in the games when we've had skills like this that are outside the box, that are worthy but shouldn't ruin you if you can't throw a softball. Like, it should be, I don't think it should be worth as much as the other events were. I think that's different. So I don't think it belonged in there as a 100-point event at all. But but again, I like what it was. I like how I loved seeing the fact that, like, wow, there are some, like, you stayed up there, like, Catherine, give me a break. 2 minutes and 54 seconds. I mean, a perfect stag position when she's up there and didn't even bobble. And I think you even had it on your story. You're like, I legit thought that the freeze froze because, like, no one's moving, man.
I'm tapping my computer screen. I'm like, did my internet go out? Because these women aren't moving.
Oh, but what I saw with that was very similar to the first time they brought out the handstand walk at the games. I think that was 2012, 2011? 2011.
Skills test.
Okay. And you saw basically the same thing. You saw a handful of athletes hop out way out into the front. They had the skill. Then you saw the majority of the group kind of fall in all about the same time. You see the majority of the group were all kind of lasting about the same. And then you had some that could barely do the handstand walk at all. We had some that were like, it's like, oh, is that 45 seconds or 50 seconds? Or, like, that seems good, in a general class maybe. But, like, again, it's a CrossFit game. So I see this setup looking like that, where you saw the people that you luckily had that skill. I mean, and it played in your favor. But again, the other ones were 50 points. These were 100 points. And I just think that's a little much for what it is. But whatever.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I think it's okay because the other two that they had in there, because that was just the format of the games.
No, I agree.
You could argue that a front squat should only be 50 and a 1,000-meter row should only be 50. But since it's all in there, I mean, it just was what it was.
It fits that way. But with that, do we get the right people going, or should it be worthy to cut to 5? Like, now all of a sudden these very specific little things.
Right, but it would be different if there was only one event of something so niche and skilled, but there was 3. That's my point. I get what you're saying.
I just think it is a gymnastic movement. I just think that it was too much. It was worth too much for what it was. A gymnastic skill. Like, let's see some. I don't know. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
which is right and yours is wrong. So
yeah, of course. I was gonna be nice, like what you're entitled to, and I respect that. Go fuck yourself, Bill. Oh man! And some people, like, to help put it in perspective for some people, is like, if you're listening, just sit down and hold your hands above, like, straight over your head. Just hold them over your head. Don't let your elbows bend. Squeeze them together really tight over your head. You got to squeeze them. And do that for 3 minutes. In fact, you know what? Close your eyes and just do it as long as you can. And as soon as your elbows bend, I'm going to stop the clock. Or as soon as your hands move in front of your ears. And tell me how impressive those handstand hold times were. Then come back to me about that, because people just don't really have any context with it. And that was part of the issue that some people had, is that they had no understanding of the difficulty of the test for those that were good at it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's
something to try.
The fact. No, I'm not saying that the test.
I'm not talking about you.
Did you see Jacob Hebner's Instagram?
No. What is it?
So he did it. Oh man, it's so great. He's got like a rope tied to his ankle. He's got like boxes put around the box so he can like bump up against them as he's staying up there.
For a second, I thought it was real, and I was like, genius. Probably illegal, but that is genius.
Oh, man, it was awesome. It was so good.
Oh, that was funny.
So
okay,
good.
then it came down to the final event of the weekend, Awful Annie. And it was 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, drag rope double unders, GHD sit-ups, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 of cleans at 275 and 185, and you were allowed to power if you chose to do, which most people did.
Mm-hmm.
And my initial gut reaction, I was like, what I thought it was going to be, I like the twist of the drag rope. I would have preferred there to be more reps, like double, for that to really matter, because it didn't. And I was like, that weights. I was like, we got to do another heavy event. I was like, and then I watched them go, and I was like, oh, right.
Oh, those guys, they're lifting.
Games athletes are lifting. I need to start putting, I was like, I had to put my analytical glasses back on because I was viewing it through my own. It's like, this is all heavy. It's like deadlifts and front squats and these overhead squats and body weight. I was like, even though I like those, but then you got these cleans, like it's supposed to be something. Then I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll shut up. I like to test at the end. After watching several videos, there really wasn't much that separated anybody else other than, I would say, rest between reps in movements. Like, how quickly did you start your first clean after you got off the GHD? That separated people in the time frame. When you look at, say, Matt Fraser wins 8:46, Fikowski was 9:02. That's a difference of not even 20 seconds.
Yeah.
It's 16 seconds. Less than 4 seconds around. Call it 3. So Matt Fraser just picked up the bar 3 seconds faster than Brent Fikowski, and that's why he beat him. And that's how you win. You go faster than other people. But I thought I would have liked. I had no problem with the event. I would have liked to see more double unders for those to matter. Those just looked like those weren't as hard as I think people thought they were going to be. And maybe that's a testament to games athletes. They're like, here's something new. Okay. No problem. Like, nobody had an issue with it.
Yeah.
But that was really it.
I liked how it was set up. I liked the weight. I liked that it pushed them to have to pick it up, and no, it wasn't going to be like touch and go.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good point.
The
reps and the weight dictated the pace of the event, and maybe that's
what. And you do feel like, I mean, when we think GHD, we think, oh man, crushing the midline, which is true on day 2. But when you're doing it, where you feel it is in your quads.
Oh my gosh.
So like, having to do all those GHD sit-ups, snapping those knees down, working the hip flexors, bringing in those quads after you've already used your quads how many times all yesterday?
Perfectly.
All this 75 overhead squats, like your legs are blown out.
Yep.
And then having to get right into the cleans. And the drag rope is a pain in the ass. Like, it, not to say that these athletes can't handle it, but it does slow you down. You are having to use your shoulders. You have to think about it a little bit. It's not much, but you do have to think about it. I loved how it was set up. You didn't have to do 150. Remember, like, because we were talking about tripling. If it was a regular rope, yeah, you would have to triple it.
Not a drag rope or even a heavy rope.
Yeah, we were talking about tripling, and I think that it's set up nice.
Okay.
And I like the fact that they had the clean in there. My brother did it.
Oh, he did.
So he's like, he hit me up afterwards. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do the. He had the drag rope and everything, and was like around 20.
I've never used the drag rope, so that's part of me is like I'm looking at this without context.
Yeah, I mean, you feel it in your shoulders because you need to maneuver the rope around. So it's like I said, you feel like you just learned how to do double unders, or like you get that really tight feeling in your shoulders.
Yeah.
So you definitely have that. But he was like, yeah, he's like, well, it sucks getting older because couldn't touch and go the 275, and I had to squat clean him just to get underneath it. And he's been dealing with some injury stuff, so he hasn't been like pulling super heavy. But like he was like 20 minutes, 21 minutes, something like that, doing it. But he was like, dude, my legs were blasted. So all of a sudden, and he's strong as shit,
He's strong. Your brother is so strong.
So you see that, and you compare that to Matt Fraser, and you're like, dang, bro. But actually, who was most impressive on this one was Brent Fikowski on that. He's a long-bodied person, and a GHD sit-up. I mean, okay, I know you can kind of reach your arms back there a little bit to try and shorten that up, but that's a lot. That's a lot of lever to have to move.
I agree. I don't think the way the GHD is, the way it's set up, it's not as much of a range of motion detriment to a taller person because I can reach for the ground, and
if you can get your shoulders back, right? If you can get your hands back there, you can definitely do that. And I think that there's definitely that in there. But I mean, again, you have one of the not so tall athletes right next to one of the athletes that's one of your taller athletes, and just like what you're talking about, a handful of seconds difference per each round. So like that's pretty impressive. I mean, really, and even if you take those out and they're even, it's like, okay, both those guys moving that weight, no problem. I mean, boom, hit it, drop, boom, hit it, drop, boom, hit it, drop, boom, hit it, drop, like it's 175 instead of 275.
Yeah,
it's insane. I like the event. I thought it was cool. I liked it.
Fraser wins that. Tia wins 801. Carl Saunders second. Brooke Wells third. Wow, the times are almost exactly the same. So Tia's 8 minutes. She was faster than Matt by about 46 seconds. But 10th was 10 minutes for the women, 10:01, and for the men, 10:02. So your top 10 all right at or under 10. Okay, so those are your 7 events. We'll go through the numbers. We always go through that, and I've been keeping track as we're going through. And we're using a training guide analysis worksheet for program itself, and it looks at a multitude of different variables. One is modality or load, gymnastics, weightlifting, light, medium, or heavy, and then monostructural. You see time domains. They have short, sub 5, 5 to 10, 11 to 20, plus 20. They look at repetition volume, schemes, singlets, couplets, triplets, and then we go through their movements. All right, so let's just go through this event by event. So we go event number 1, thrusters and pull-ups. Had gymnastics in it with the pull-up, chest to bar. Weightlifting, I said light, and I completely ripped this from Pat Sherwood. He says, make sure when you're analyzing it, and this is a good point, is that you're analyzing it to the context of the field that's doing the work. And so if we're analyzing this event to the top 30 men and women in the world in the sport, a 115-pound and 85-pound thruster is a light movement. If you're not sure or believe me, go watch Matt Fraser's video of 308, and you'll be like, yeah, that is light. Are you sure that's not just an empty barbell? Because I couldn't go that fast with an empty barbell, and he did it with 115 pounds. So it was light. It was a sub 5-minute workout or event. Matt did it in 308. All athletes were definitely under sub 5. Moderate rep scheme, it's between 50 and 200. I know that's a wide discrepancy, but that's what the sheet says. And let's see. And it was a couplet. And then we already said gymnastics and weightlifting. Event 2, straight up front squat, max lift, single modality, heavy weightlifting. Heavy day, low rep is 1. Single modality, we just said. And then a front squat. Event number 3, Damn Diane. You have a gymnastics and a weightlifting, another couplet. The weightlifting is heavy, 315, 205, unless you go and watch Tia and Matt do it again, and then you're like, are you sure that's not light? You're like, no, I promise that actually is heavy.
Yeah, I almost want to count it as moderate.
Absurd.
You know?
You see the other people do it, and that's heavy for 45 reps. But it does look moderate. Low reps, medium rep scheme, again, between 50 and 100, I think it was 45, 90 reps total. Another couplet, sub 5 minutes, we already said, task priority, 2 movements. Event 4, 1,000-meter row, monostructural only. Again, another sub 5-minute work. You can almost put a category of sub 3, and these would all still fit in there, almost. Repetitions, not applicable. Single modality, task. Event 5, Nasty Nancy. You got gymnastics with the burpees. You have monostructural with the run. And then you have a moderate weightlifting with the 185 and 125 overhead squats. It's a triplet. It worked into the 11 to 20-minute time frame. So that's a longer time frame, not the longest. Plus 20 would be considered long. Again, we said it's a triplet. Event number 6, that is our handstand hold, gymnastics test, sub 5 minutes of effort, single modality, task priority. And then event number 7 is our Awful Annie. You got gymnastics with the GHD sit-up. You have a heavy barbell with the 275 and 185 cleans, and then a monostructural considered for the double unders. 5 to 10 minutes is the range. We just said athletes were between 8 to 10 minutes total. That's our one modality outside the other 2 that we had. We still have that longer one. Triplet again, high volume. And that is it. In total, we had 7 events. We had 5 gymnastics movements, 5 weightlifting movements. On the time side, and this is where most people looking at the programming just by the numbers have the issue, is that you had 4 of the 7 events sub 5 minutes worth of effort. And I would agree that there is a discrepancy there. One heavy day, 1 5 to 10 minute, 1 11 to 20. Oh, that 11 to 20 is quite a big range. Nothing 20 plus. Total repetitions, you had 2 that didn't really have one. You had the handstand and the row. You had 1 that was lower than 50, and that was just the front squat, 50 to 200, 2 of the 7. And then, excuse me, 1 that had a higher volume involved in there. Let's see, singles, 3, couplets, 2, triplets, 2. So that's your 7. A good blend there. The only other one would be a chipper, anything 4 moves or more that's non-repeating. And then this isn't on the sheet, but we do this, is that we look at the type of moving the gymnastics were between push, pull, squat, and core. There were 3 push to 1 pull. No squat gymnastics and 1 core with the GHD sit-up. On the weightlifting side, you had 1 push. We added a push for the top of the thruster. So that's a front squat and push. 2 pull, that was the deadlift and the power clean. Well, most people power clean. They could have squatted. And then squat clean, you could say those that did would be 3. So you had the thruster, front squat, and possibly the clean at the end. So that's it. Numbers-wise, and again, we're just giving you what the sheet says, is that there is a time domain bias to that sub 3 minute time frame, and more than just it being a sub 5 minute, is that is a pretty significant difference. I think when we were talking about the Masters Fitness Collective and they had like 6 couplets or something, we did to make the distinction that each of those couplets were different tests, even though they said couplet, couplet, couplet. I will agree when now we kind of look back on it and where we think there could be some modifications. Honestly, for me, that first day was so similar with the sub 3 or right around 3 minute friendly Fran, the sub 3 Diane, couplet, gymnastics, weightlifting, and then the sub 3 row. But again, the row was a weird test in and of itself. I wouldn't change the row if I wanted something, say, in that mid-tiered range. So somewhere between 10 to 13 minutes is we'd never hit that hole, or something 20 plus. But I feel like Nancy covered that fine. I would have liked to see not change the row because I like the uniqueness of the test and it fit with the 3 single modalities that were part of the test, but change either Diane or Fran into maybe a chipper or something a little bit longer that fit that 10 to 13 minute scheme, and maybe add, I would have liked to see maybe one more gymnastics pull in the programming, since we only had chest to bar pull, so we did have a handstand push-up and handstand hold. So when I look at it, and if I were to change anything without adding it, I would have changed one of the couplets on the first day, and I wouldn't have touched the row. But that was me.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. I think that.
So I was with you on the shortness of things, but I like the row test more than
fine.
The other two. That's just kind of where I was. So I'm agreeing with you, but I didn't want to change the row.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And I think if you were to, if you were to change one of the couplet or one of the couplets and made it a little bit longer, that would have definitely helped the time frame part. I agree with that. I think if I was going to change something, being that this is cutting down a massive field to a very small field, I don't think that you should be using specialist tests that weigh as much as your fitness tests. Is great as I think the front squat, the row, and the handstand hold are. I don't think that they should single-handedly be worth as much as some of the other events. So I think what I would do if we were to keep it like this, because I agree, like you can say that the Nasty Nancy covers your longer event, and like, okay, I get that. If you were to make the skill events not worth as much as the fitness events and just done that, then I think it would be balanced.
Okay.
More as far as getting your fitness athletes to the games, because you're only getting 5. So if you would have had it to where you had, let's say you had the specialist people that were able to, like, if for some reason Griffin Rowley was able to win the front squat, was great at handstand holds, and could power out on the row, and he did boom, boom, boom on those things, but wasn't as good as of a CrossFitter, he still probably would have made it to the top 5. And I don't think that would have been the right person to get there if that would have been the case.
Right.
Because it would have been a specialist thing rather than the specialist should be the fitness specialist, not the.
Yeah.
So I think these should be, that's the way I would have done it. Huh?
You had a shit row.
No, I know. And that shocked me.
And then he could only, what is this? Let me look. He held a handstand for 22 seconds. Right?
Obviously, we know where his specialty is. He's a strong guy.
And like that, I feel like there's always that inherent danger of being too specialized and making it even. I would almost say that even bolsters the legitimacy of your top 5 athletes, is because they got hit with all these specialty things, maybe outside of their realm of fitness, and they still hedged against those tests. Like, nobody made the top 5 because of a handstand hold only or a row only, right? Because Griffin Rowley got bottom 20 and he won the front squat, right? But that didn't help his overall placing.
No, I agree.
You know what I mean?
I mean, at the end, in reality, this is what's really weird, is after all these years of seeing this, it's very easy to go, well, did the fittest people get to where they need to be? And it's almost hard because you have someone like Matt and Tia. Well, it's like they're going to win anything anyway. So Are the fittest getting there? Yeah, but you could have put checkers in here and they probably would have won that too. So then it's like, well, is the test really getting the right people there? Or are those two just so good it doesn't matter what the test is, they're going to get there? So you have to kind of start looking at the other people. I like the fact that I like the fact that if you look at where everyone's places were, you had a lot of up and down. If you look at where Noah was, Noah had, he had, some that were friendly fans. So he's second, 14th, second, 17th, 7th, first, and then 20th. So like boom, 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 like up and down, up and down, up and down. So I like the fact that the test did nail some people on some things. It showed that, like, okay, you're not the absolute best at this. Now, of course, you look at Matt's, I think his worst finish was 8th.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you suck, bro. You're terrible. But what's in
1,000-meter row?
Yeah. But then on the women's side, you look at Brooke Wells, and Brooke Wells was all of her finishes were 10th or better.
Yes.
And that is way impressive. So you can't just say, oh, Matt and Tia, because then here's Brooke.
Right.
That did exactly, it didn't matter what the test was. Like, she did well. Then you have someone like Noah Olson, who, was up and down, up and down. Then you get like some of these other names, and they're like I was really pretty impressed with how Justin Medeiros did. So I saw him compete. Yeah. The first time I really saw him kind of explode was at the NCC, the Northern California Classic.
Oh, okay.
And I saw him up there, and I'm like, is this guy who is this guy? And then I had a guy come in and drop in at my gym who is the gym owner where he works out, and so we were talking about him and stuff. And I'm like, my first question was, is this dude clean? Because he went from being like a good athlete to crushing people. And he's like, oh yeah, he just changed his nutrition. And of course, whenever I hear that, my first instinct is, okay.
Model.
Well, we'll see. I hope that he is. He had an unreal finish. I mean, it's amazing what youth can do for you. You know what I mean?
How old is he? 21?
He's 21. Yeah, he's a young kid.
Jeez.
He's young, but he had a great finish, and I'm stoked for him. I mean, I hope it's all good. Every single time I've said, well, I don't know what that person's doing, but they're doing great, they've been popped. So I'm hoping that that's not the case. That was really fun to watch that. But then, you got other guys in there like, Jeff Adler sliding in, doing his thing. It was awesome.
You're just saying that because you put him in your top 5.
Maybe I'm just that good.
So that was kind of our overall view of the programming. Now let's look at let's look a little bit ahead and celebrate our top 5. So we'll start with the men. Matt Fraser dominates is the wrong word. We got to figure out a new word. Matt Fraser won every single classic CrossFit event. Every one of them. Fran, Diane, Nancy, and Annie won every single one of them. And awesome. In the weird niche-y things, he takes 4th, 8th, and 2nd. And then to bolster, I would say, some of the legitimacy, you say, hey, let's look at the other ones. Noah Olson gets 2nd.
Yeah.
You got your top 2 guys from the CrossFit Games last year still gets 1 and 2. So, the test is proving that the best will still rise to the top regardless of what happens.
This is something that I think, that statement that you just made, I don't disagree with that, but now I'm starting to wonder, is it the test is getting the right people, are the right people just winning all the tests? It doesn't matter. Like I said, it doesn't matter what the.
So you want to make sure we look at the test that it's not kind of the same.
Yeah. Does the test need to be mixed up weirder or different? Because the same fit people are winning. I don't know. That's I'm just. That's what I'm looking at.
Test we've ever had.
Yeah, you're right. Well, no, it's not weird. It's no.
A single modality of strength, 1,000-meter row, and a handstand.
Oh, that way. Yeah. No, I agree. I think for a qualifier, yeah.
So
it's hard because this is a CrossFit Games.
Using it to discredit is what gives it even more credit.
Yeah, maybe.
That's how I'm reading.
Okay, maybe.
All right. So Fraser, Noah, Medeiros, 21 years old, gets 3rd overall, just 8 points behind Noah Olson. Samuel Quant,
Dude, welcome back, bro.
Whoa, bro.
Jeez.
I mean, Quant was a very popular athlete. I want to say 2 or 3 years ago because he was the young gun. Now it's Medeiros at 21. He got to the games. I think he was 20.
Yeah.
Had an okay showing. Came back, was even better, and then he was like, Quant became the new name. Is like, is this going to be one of those guys that come up like replace the Fronings and challenge the Frasers? And then I think he got hurt, and then he missed the year before. But dude's only 24.
Yeah, he's old.
24. Yeah, just a baby. I mean, the oldest guy on this leaderboard right now is Matt Fraser at 30.
Oh my God.
The Quant gets fourth. What I mean, that shocked me.
Yeah.
Shocked me. I guess it shouldn't have, but it did. And then Jeffrey Adler gets fifth overall. So of your top 5 on the men's side, you got 3 of them.
Woo! What's up?
I got 2. Because I went on the limb and said Matt Fraser, Noah Olson, and the other 2 Chandler Smith. Oh, just heartbreak for that guy. 2 points behind. And Yonakoski was in 5th place going into the last event. He was holding on to that spot. And then he got jumped by Adler and Chandler.
So nuts.
BKG, that guy, I don't know what happened. He just did not have a good weekend.
He had a bad weekend.
And that happens. I mean, that's sport. Hello. But like, I don't know what was going on, and I don't know. We're not going to pretend. Dude, Yonakoski's only 25.
Yeah.
Holy crap. I feel like I've been watching these guys compete for a decade.
Well, it's a trip because like he came on the scene just young, like so super young. And just was like, boom, like a big explosion on the scene. And then he had all of this. He had all this momentum, and every time was having to like pull out of the games because of an injury. I mean, he was in first place, and then he had to pull out because of his back. And then then he takes a year off, and then like we'd see him in Dubai, and we'd see him over here, and it's like he's always around. And you're like, when's he going to hop back on there? And then all of a sudden he's back in. I'm like, okay, well, his name's there. And then he's sitting in the top 5 the whole time. You're like, oh, my God.
Like, whoops.
Is he back?
Yeah.
He's back.
And he was. I mean, he did great. He got 7th overall, 10 points. It's a place and a half. 10 points out of that qualifying. So congratulations, Fraser, Olson, Medeiros, Quant, and Adler. On the women's side, and this is where I was like, I don't deserve to talk about CrossFit as an analyst anymore. Except when I say Tia's going to do well. Tia Toomey, first place. Brooke Wells.
Yeah.
Here's another crazy thing. Tia's 26. Brooke is younger. She's younger than Tia.
Yeah.
And again, she's one of those athletes that I feel like have been doing this for a decade. And she has the best competition she's ever had in her life.
Oh man, yeah, she did so.
Like, oh, Tia is just wiping. I was like, Tia won by 35 points.
Yeah.
That's it. And in this scoring system, I think that's the difference between 1st and 6th.
Yeah.
No, I take that back. 1st and 8th. Close. 1st and 10th. There you go. 1st and 10th. That's it. And all that could have been is a handstand, and it actually was. But it would have. But that's what I'm saying. So Tia still wins, but doesn't dominate like everybody was saying. It's only 35 points. It's the closest anyone's been to her in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Brooke Wells gets 2nd. Haley Adams. Wow.
Awesome.
Wow.
Awesome.
Put some respect on that young girl's name. 19. The thing I loved about this is, one, I completely wrote her off. Completely, because I saw heavy squat, heavy deadlift, heavy clean. Sorry, just not your game.
Well, and she's better. She's usually better at the longer events.
I know, but still.
Like that's why, and because there weren't any, I really didn't. I didn't think she would have the chance.
Yep. And she gets 3rd overall.
Yeah, she killed it. That was. I mean, I've seen her obviously a long time. From the teen scene and all that, and I honestly thought that No, I'll be straight up honest. I thought she was going to be one of those athletes that came from like the young, that you had all the success as the young athlete, jumps into the big scene, didn't get her show right away, and then just kind of burns out, kind of fizzles out. Man, she's good. Like she's not a good young athlete. Like, oh, she's gonna someday she's gonna be like, she's really fucking good.
Here's what I love for her is that, she made the top 10 last year. I can't remember what she got last year, like 6th or something like that.
Yeah, 6th, dude.
6th. Everyone was like, it was only because of the cuts.
Yeah.
And what I love for her and what I want to see for the sport, I want to see some new blood in there, legit new blood, not just flashes in the pan.
Yeah.
Is that this makes that so much more legitimate.
Oh, totally. 100%.
So that's what I'm super pumped in. And so she gets 497, 7 points back. Katrin David's daughter makes the top 5. Again, it wasn't that I didn't think she was going to make it. It's just it was so hard to pick 5 from the field.
Totally.
That with the front squat, and I was looking at the heavier deadlifts, and then that power clean at the end. And not that she's bad at them, but there's so many other girls that are better to squeeze into the 5. But when you come out and you win 2 events, and that performance on the row was incredible. So I'm really excited to see her back. I hope she takes this. I hope her back against the wall moment is still here.
Yeah, keep that.
Come out with the claws.
Just make something up. You hit it. You hit it perfect. The Michael Jordan. If you haven't seen that movie out there, you got to see it. But it shows that's what he would do. He would just pick someone and make it personal.
And then I took it personally.
Totally. And then he'd go out and like crush people in the game. It's like, there was no problem. We didn't have a problem, but I made there be a problem.
I just need Ben to go up to her. He's like, hey, I heard Tia called you a bitch in the world. That's what I do.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect.
You can stop throwing sand on Katrin while she's doing burpees on a hill in the middle of the woods. You can just tell her. You can just give her bulletin board like all these other athletes are just.
Tia says you suck.
All of them.
Tia says you're washed up.
That's. And then Carrie Pierce.
Yeah. Wow.
The elder stateswoman in the field at 31.
Jeez.
Comes in 5th. Just 2 points. Look at this. This was insane. Carrie Pierce, 451. Kristen Holta, who was holding on to 5th going into the last event, 449. Barnhart, 446, 5 points back. Cara Saunders, 444, 7 points back.
Yeah.
2, 5, and 7. That's how close it was. And when I'm talking about how excited I was over the whole weekend without having expectations going in, to see that finish, I was so pumped, but like distraught and destroyed. I was like, no, my picks. But I wanted to see Cara in there. I wanted to see her comeback. This is her comeback year, and it's a really weird year. And she was right there, but she had some stumbles. But
yeah,
you can't take away from anyone's performance above her.
No, everyone did great. And what's crazy is if we would have actually had this as a live competition to actually see what this would have looked like, with everything being that close, and like the true drama of all of that and how that would have played out would have been insane. It would have been really fun to watch. I mean, the fact that bubble is that close is just nuts. It's just nuts.
Imagine. Like I said, imagine coming into the final event, even on the men's side.
Yeah.
Like, here's the scores. Here's the final heat. Your top 10 dudes.
Yeah.
Here's the scoring difference. Go. And then imagine watching the women's side. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. It's been just crazy.
Wow. What? I mean, it was good. Great. Fun to watch. Again, from my perspective and the approach I took, I really enjoyed it. Programming wise, yes, and we said before, it's going to be really tough to judge it fairly from the analytical side and remove the fan side and the weird confines that we were stuck in competing against to find only 5 of the fittest 30 so many deserving athletes, but you still have to earn your spot. You don't just get it because you work hard or you have a popular name. Like,
yeah, but just because I had issues with some of the things, it's not that I think that the test wasn't fair. The test was completely fair because everyone was in the exact same boat.
Yeah.
So they all had to deal with the same events. They all had their same training building up to it. They all had to do it, in a weird confine. The way it was set up, they had to have their video. It wasn't the normal game day setup. Everyone had to deal with it the same way. So the test was completely fair.
Yeah.
Could there have been some changes to it? Yeah, totally. But we could say that about every single CrossFit year. Yeah. So, it is what it is. The end result, I think, was a pretty damn good competition.
Yes.
Lot of excitement, even from a fan setup. There's a lot of excitement, whether you got to see it live or not. Obviously, I would have rather have seen live rather than, just talking about it and actually seeing it actually go down. But it was a pretty dang good weekend.
Yeah,
pretty dang good weekend. Now the hard part is going into the next phase.
Well, let's talk your picks and my picks.
Do I get to give you my top 5?
You got one. And I got 2. So I had Tia and Curry.
Oh, okay.
So we tied it for 4 wins apiece.
Okay.
Which is super boring for people that were trying to keep score, and we ended up tying.
Oh man, but I think what's hard now is, this is the CrossFit Games, and now we're moving into phase 2, and that's the CrossFit Games. Also, the clean slate. Should it be a clean slate? I don't know. I don't know.
They are cleaning it.
Well, I mean, they are, obviously, and they're going to go, they're going to have that full week of events. Like Dave said, he didn't want to change the events that he came up with. So that means it's not going to be a handful of events.
Good.
It's going to be a lot. Now, how is the scoring going to look for just 5 athletes?
They released it.
Huh?
You released the scoring.
No, I realize that. But I'm saying, like, as we're building into that, so
I like the clean slate. Like we said earlier, it's like this is almost like a beefed up regionals, and you don't carry that over just because they were awesome.
Yeah.
But if you call it CrossFit Games, I get what you're saying. I'd rather clean the slate.
Well, that would be the same thing as like taking before any of your cuts, like in the previous years. If you're going to cut, going to cut your athletes, then you should be erasing the scores. So should we be erasing the scores?
I'll concede that point to you.
So I don't know. I'm still excited.
For excitement's sake, clear the scores, or else it's just going to be stupid to watch the men's competition. Be no point.
Nah, no. Whether someone's going to dominate or not doesn't mean there's no point not to watch it. Because now it's like, because you earn those points.
I still enjoy it.
You earned all those points that you got. Why should they not count? You crush everybody in there, and now all of a sudden you have to do it all over again. I mean, not that you wouldn't, not that he wouldn't.
Yes, but it's different when there's 6 weeks between events.
Why?
Because it's a different competition altogether.
It's the CrossFit Games. It's not the different competition. I don't give a shit
what they called it. It's a different competition. It's an online competition.
It was the CrossFit Games.
Well, they can call it whatever they want, and you can semantics all you want, but
I'm just playing devil's advocate. I don't disagree with you, man. I know, I understand the hard part. That's why, even cutting to 5, like I think that's kind of rough. I don't know.
It is. It's rough, but it was a good. I overall,
it was exciting.
Weeks I would have liked to see programming wise, but those are just small, insignificant details. I doubt it would have changed anything much. Yeah, maybe a little bit. It was so damn close.
Yeah, totally.
At least for that 5th qualifying spot. However, we have our top 5. Our online part 1 of the CrossFit Games is over. The live competition will be coming up in October. And they announced this weekend that kind of like wasn't as broadly. It's going to be on CBS.
Yeah, I saw that.
YouTube, Facebook, and then live events coming back to television where they never should have left to begin with.
Seriously.
Is coming back. So that is exciting news from the CrossFit Games from a coverage standpoint. For those of you that were bitching and moaning about not getting it, when they told you it wasn't going to happen to begin with, are going to get it now. I can't wait to see what you complain about next. But I'm sure you will find something. But overall, hey, I had a good time. I like the top 5 that we got. I'm excited to see them compete live in Aromas. And you know, there are some things that I would have changed in the programming, so I'll give it thumb and 75% of another thumb. Does that work? Those of you that can't see this.
Sure. I'll do your 1.75 thumbs.
Give it a 1.75.
I'll do a 1.75. Yeah.
The test itself, for what it did, it found the 5 that you needed to find in the way that the test was designed to find them. It's about as PC as I can say it.
I'll agree with you. I think that you got the fit people to get through whatever was handed to them to make it to the next stage. So yeah, they made it through their 1.75s of the test, 1.75 thumbs, off to phase 2.
Off to phase 2 coming up in second weekend of October. Now for us, we are going to try to get back to our analyzing the programming of the CrossFit Games coming up this week. We are working on a very special guest, not to spoil anything because we may not get them.
Oh man, come on.
But I hope we do. So 2016 analyzing the CrossFit Games will be coming up next. But for Bill Grundler and myself, I want to thank you guys for listening. Go check us out on patreon.com/getwiththeprogramming and go check out Bub's Naturals, 20% off. Bill, thank you again.
My friend, I'll talk to you soon.